We are live.
Boom! Welcome to Wednesday night's main event. I am one of your hosts, Kelly Bullock, the Creek Junkie extraordinaire. And right over here is
the KMB angler himself, Mr. KB. And of course, below us, as you can see, is CattMatt himself.
Yeah, Mr.
I'm
Matt.
here. Yeah, I'm here with these two yahoos. Apparently,
I think Yahoo's on a different channel.
yeah, Yahoo.
I think Yahoo.
I didn't want to call you a couple Googles.
Yeah, him and his Bigfoot partners. We're just a bunch of hoodlums. We're just a bunch of hoodlums.
Two Googles don't sound right, but knuckleheads, that's okay. I like knucklehead.
Yeah, there you go.
We go a couple knuckleheads.
Knuckleheads, a couple knuckleheads, yep.
So it looks like we have Mr. Buck Williams. Cat Claus is also in the house.
Mr. Cat Claus, Mr. Adam.
And of course,
hi, Adam.
Jody has stepped in to enjoy our Cat Claus says yo-yos.
Yo-yos.
Old Adam, I got his
calling his yo-yos. I think he was just saying yo-yo, like yo-yo, what's up?
Oh yeah, okay.
But if he was talking about you, if he was talking about you, Kevin, then I can understand him calling you yo-yo.
Yeah.
I think I got Adam's first set of T-bars in my boat.
There you go.
There you
go. Ooh, boy, that chat picked up quick.
Oh, Jody says, "Can I pick on people tonight, as long as you keep it clean?"
You do realize this is our show, right? Eventually, this one goes.
And you know who Jody is too, don't you?
Exactly.
I'm saying you can keep it clean. There's David Hughes. There's Joseph.
Joseph Muscle, my buddy.
And there's Mr. Jeremy Colvin, Mr. Finn Seeker TV, which I went out with him last week and caught two really nice little blues.
They were nice.
So
I didn't go back and see where you caught the first one.
You know, after going back and watching that and also remembering it, that one on the front rod that was right there, the very first one,
yeah,
it literally had that rod into the water underneath the boat. For a 9-pound blue, 8 or 9 pound blue, it had literally had that pole bent, and it was a Berkeley, I think, or something like that. It was just a small one. It's like it wasn't an 8-footer. It was smaller than an 8-footer. I mean, Jeremy can tell me what size it was, but it was. I mean, that thing bent that straight over underneath the boat.
Well, you saw how that 12-pounder just in did.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Jody says, "Is that Chad's twin brother on panel?"
That's what I was fixing to highlight. That.
Do you know, Matt? Do you know what we're talking about?
I do not.
Chad Fields to water, Mr. Chadwick.
Oh, Chadwick. Yes, I do. Yeah. I knew. No, I didn't know that's who you're referring to. The twin thing. No.
Yeah. So
yeah,
Jody's thinking that you are his twin.
Really?
She's
or should it be the other way around? Is Chad your twin?
Hey,
well, I'm an OG, so I'd rather go with he'd be my twin.
He'd be your twin.
There you go.
Okay. We can go with that. We got 8 wonderful people in here. So make sure y'all hit that thumbs up, share that out tonight, and let's give Matt our wonderful undivided attention tonight as he graces us with his presence and talking about fishing and flatheads and
fishing. That's where it's at.
Did I say fishing? Did I say fishing? Okay.
You did say fishing.
Okay. Just want to make sure. That's what we're talking about.
You got the subject right. That's good.
Especially the way I've been feeling the last few days. Yeah, I better make sure that I'm on the right track.
It's all right. I'm not up to par myself tonight, so
we're a couple jabronis then.
I'd have hated to start talking about squirrel hunting.
Squirrel.
Been on the wrong show. I'm on the wrong show.
Honestly, we could talk about anything. It's the way it ends up going. We can end up venturing into hunting, which is one of your passions, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I love me some hunting. Yeah, I'm up here in the north, so I mean, I was raised on squirrel hunting and then graduated kind of into deer hunting, but bird hunting's really big up here. And, obviously, I don't have blues up here. So once I got to the point where I got tired of catching 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 pound channel cats, the only step up was flatheads. So that's kind of how I, graduated into that a little bit. And
see, I can pick your brain tonight then, because that's basically really in my actual area that I fish here without traveling. That's all I have is channel cats and flatheads.
Right.
So I can really pick your brain on flatheads, definitely.
You can, and picking my brain probably won't take you all that long. We could probably be done about 10 minutes. So
that's why I like where I live here in Georgia. We've got all 3 of them.
I mean, I've got the blues. I mean, I just have to travel. I mean, the closest blue population I have is an hour and a half west of me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we've got a lot of man-made lakes here in Illinois that they have started to stock with blue cats. And, if I go south on the Mississippi a couple hours, we've got blue cats, and they're starting to move up into the mouth of the Illinois River a little bit. And so I don't have to go a long way, but I'm a flathead fisherman. So traveling for blues is something I only do. I don't know if I get an itch or something. Otherwise, I'm content hunting flatheads. So Thank you, honey. You're the best. My wife brought me some coffee. See, I'm good to go now.
May I have some coffee?
Can we please have coffee delivered?
You may.
I mean,
take a ride on Interstate 80 and drive about 17 hours, and I'll give you a cup, pal.
There you go. I got my tea tonight, so.
I was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, in the Army, and that was about how many eons ago was that? 42 years ago. I was at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Fort Benning, not as a soldier, but I've been up there. I actually got turned around and next thing I know, I'm rolling through their gate, and they're like, "Can we help you, sir?" And I'm like, "No, just turn me around."
They'll help you all right. They will definitely help you.
Straight up,
I took the wrong turn.
And that's the thing about if you don't know that you're turn around until you get to the gate. That's the bad thing about it going into Fort Benning. And once you get to the gate, and there's no way of turning around once you get to the gate except to go through, and they will turn you around.
They will guide you. Yes. This is how you do it, and you need to do it right now. That's exactly how that happens. Yeah.
With weapons drawn, probably.
Well, there's weapons
on their sides.
But it's not. I mean, unless you're doing something sketchy, they're not going to pull their weapons unless they feel.
Oh yeah, but I guarantee their hand was pretty close.
Oh yeah. Well, you got the gate guard, and then you got about 3 or 4 soldiers off to all sides of you. That's toting their rifles. So yeah, it will intimidate you real quick, like in a hurry whenever you roll up on that gate.
It could.
Yeah.
It definitely
could. Let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt, and where you're from, what waters you fish, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, I live up here in northwestern Illinois. I'm almost directly the other corner of the state from Chicago, pretty much just the opposite side, because when you say you're from Illinois, everybody just assumes that means Chicago. But no, there is other corrupt areas of Illinois other than Chicago. So I happen to live directly across the state on the Mississippi River and the Rock River, the Pecatonica River. So I've got the Illinois River is actually 3 miles this way. The Mississippi River is 3 miles this way. The Illinois River is about a half an hour south of here. So I've got a lot of good waters around here, but I started fishing with my dad in the little creeks and stuff in the 70s. I caught my first catfish sitting on a sandbar while my dad was setting bank poles in 1976 on a brown Zebco 202. The fish was about 4 pounds. I thought it was about 60. And, that kind of, thank God for my dad, he exposed me to that stuff. And I was just curious enough to find out enough to know that I really liked it and I wanted to keep doing it. And, it became more of a challenge. You kind of, me and buddies set throw lines and bank poles and stuff all through school as kids, and more and more rod and reel stuff started. I started to work more and more of that stuff in, and it never left me. And then by the time I was about 25 years, late 90s, we had some people. I was involved in Pro Cats magazine, the first online magazine, and he decided he was done apparently for the evening. He checked out. I'm gonna assume he'll be right there. He is. He's back. Thank you. So anyway, I had a lot of people tell me, hey, you should start guiding. I loved taking people fishing and my kids fishing and all that stuff. And I started guiding, and I had a lot of success early on. I never really had a lot of competition. There wasn't too many guys across the country, still isn't, that just guide you strictly for flatheads. A lot of guys will at certain times of the year will bump into flatheads a lot, and they know this and stuff. But as far as, being able to call a guy on the phone and say, hey, I want to go target flatheads and catch flatheads, there's not very many, never has been very many guys. And it's a big responsibility. It's trying to commit to that for a whole season every year is tough. But like I said, I had a lot of success early, and I was blessed. I had a good river to fish, and a couple good rivers to fish, really. So it just kind of grew. And I had started that guide business. I worked 4 12-hour shifts for years in a steel mill, and then I would, my goal was to kind of build my guide business up to where I could guide like 1 day a week on my 4 days off. And it got to the point where I was working my 412s in the mill, getting off, spending my whole first day off catching bait, and then guiding 3 days, and then going right back in and working 412s at the steel mill. And I did that for many, many years. And then I got so busy with it, and I had a lot of good sponsors and stuff. And I walked away from the steel industry, and I was just a full-time guide for, the last 7 or 8 years. That's all I did for a living was guide. And, it's opened up a lot of opportunities, that I never thought I'd have with catfishing, being able to travel the country and do seminars and write for magazines and Catfish Now. And I've got to do a lot of television shows and big magazines that I used to read as kids. And, I think it's really cool because there's not a lot of opportunities in catfishing like there is in bass fishing and crappie and walleye. So it was, I'm really blessed and been real lucky, and I've worked hard, but to be able to do some of the things that I've got to do, I'm pretty fortunate. And I'd have never thought I'd got to do. I used to watch Saturday morning when the fishing shows would come on when I was a kid, and they would always basically be bass fishing shows, but they were rarely catfish shows. But I see them guys throwing stuff to a crowd at a tournament or whatever, and I wanted to do that so bad, and I did for many, many years. Go to tournaments and always took my sponsors' products, threw them out to kids in the crowd, and I wasn't, we weren't Kevin Van Dam, and we weren't Bill Dance, and we weren't Roland Martin, but I felt like I had achieved about all there was to achieve in cat. That was as good as you could do in catfishing. Was you actually have some people like what you were doing and appreciate what you were doing, and be able to give some things back to kids and other things. I've been fortunate to work with the USSA and Bridget O'Donoghue up there and do a lot of things with her and Make-A-Wish and veteran stuff. I'm a veteran and I get to work with I've got to do stuff with them. And I could go on, and I'm just feel real lucky, real blessed to be able to have done a lot of the stuff that I've gotten to do with catfishing. And today I'm a beat up old man up here on the Mississippi River, and I'm still taking people fishing for flatheads and still catching some good ones, and still involved in some things, obviously not at the level I was at one time. And I actually most people know the story. I got bit by a brown recluse while I was at the Mississippi River Monsters tournament back in 2018, and had all kinds of health issues that have stemmed from that. But, everything's going good now, and I still love catfishing. And, I feel like I got a lot that I can share with people, especially of flathead fishing. I really, really love flatheads. They're different than the rest of the species of catfish. And, the way you approach a lot of them is different. And, to consistently catch big ones. I mean, some guys get lucky or they're dragging and they catch some, or they're bumping and they catch some, but I'm real old school, and I really like to anchor and target cover and throw baits right to them and try to work that whole one-on-one thing. And I like to try and keep it old school, more like a hunt than just going out and trying to get lucky. And I love it, and some people, like to do it that way still. And so I still have a lot of people that I have fished with from as long 10, 20, even 30 years ago that still come and still fish. And they like doing it the old school way, and setting hook, using J hooks, fishing right in the cover, not around the cover, not by the cover, in the cover. And trying to pull them big fish out. And same kind of people that are still using basic compound bows and recurve bows instead of these bows that'll kill deer at 120 yards, and scopes for sights, and over top of food plots and all that stuff. People that still like to do it the old school way, try to get close to an animal on the ground. Flatheads are a lot like trophy deer. So much goes into that. So lots of reasons to love fishing for flatheads, and you can make it as much of an adventure as you want to, really. So I get asked all the time about electronics and about hooks and about things, and I always tell people how much time you got, because you can talk about that stuff forever. You guys just let me know if I'm being too long-winded, because I don't want to.
No, go. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just like when you talk about old school, it's, I mean, a lot of times that's the way we need to get back into, because I think a lot of times, electronics and stuff have misguided us. We rely on them too much. And yes, they are a blessing. Don't get me wrong, they are a blessing. But a lot of times, to be able to enjoy the fishing and enjoy the hunt for them, it's like you said, the old school is go to those spots, go find those spots, hunt them down by hunting the bait, hunting the structure areas.
I used to, when I was with G3 for a long, long time, and they used to give me boats, and I would turn them in every couple of years, get a new one, and so on and so forth. And when we got to some of the newer models of electronics on them boats, I found that I became a much worse angler with the more technology I got, because I would find myself going to spots with souped up electronics, I call them, which, like I said, if I was a blue cat angler in the South, and I had been my whole life, man, them electronics are a huge deal fishing all that big water down there, and I don't blame a guy a bit. But the last thing you want to do flathead fishing is start relying on a fish finder to find your fish for you, because it's just going to frustrate you, and you're going to strike out a lot. And one thing I found was, when I got the nice electronics, I would start looking through all the areas that I had been catching fish on for years and years and years. And, I wasn't all that impressed with what I saw on the electronics. In fact, I don't know that I would have stopped in a lot of those places if I was solely relying on the electronics. I don't know that I would have stopped in them places. And I stopped in those places originally because back in the day, you read the water. You looked at the way the current flowed off a bridge pillar, or you looked at you found a boil in the middle of the river, and you knew there was a hump and a drop there. You knew there was something there that was changing the flow of the water, and change was a good thing. And that's that, fish are always kind of drawn to a change. So, but it was amazing to me because all I ever ran was $100 units that I wanted to know the water temperature. I wanted to know how deep it was, and I wanted to see if there's, any structure below me. And that's really all I care about for flathead fishing, is the cover. And so that was the three things I'd always look for in a day. And I didn't need a $4,000 depth finder or a sonar unit to tell me that. So, as I got older, I graduated to a color unit just because I could see it better in the daytime. The sun didn't kind of blind it out like it would a black and white screen. So, but that was the only reason why. So, being able to, just know where the cover was, the drop off was, and to know what the water temperature, water temperature also, obviously during the summer, what you're pretty much doing, but what you're fishing in that fall or that springtime frame, water temperature means a lot as far as what kind of water you're fishing and what kind of bait you're throwing. So makes a huge difference, in fact. So, I guess, and that probably now, that's probably the most popular question I get asked, I would imagine, is outside of bait, is about sonar. And, I always tell people, I show them the one I got in my boat, which is about a $300 and some Garmin with a color unit on it. And it shows the bottom real well. It tells me the water temperature, shows me the depth, and that's what that's what you really need to know. You don't need anything else to be a really good flathead fisherman outside of a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, and I'll always refer to people that hunt big deer that are trying to kill a certain big deer. The correlation between trophy whitetail deer and flathead it's amazing that one lives underneath the water and one lives on land, because you would swear they were related if you started talking about their behavior, the way they travel, when they travel, their home area, their home core area, everything that they do is so similar that it's almost spooky, and you would almost think, man, one has fur, walks on the land, the other one has skin, lives under the water, but man, they could be cousins, because they do so much alike. And I've killed caught so many of my big flatheads in the middle of the day, because I like to target that individual cover. And I know during the daytime, during the middle of the day, that's where they're at. I know it. And it's just like a big deer. I mean, your odds increase exponentially if you know that big deer is in that 1 acre bedding area over there. Man, it gives you a lot of options of how to get a shot at him. So same with a flathead. During the day where they're going to be. It's just a matter of, can you get a bait in there to him, and are you willing to bust off a few times? Or we have a saying. I have a saying in my boat a lot of times when I cast it, and it's simple. The only way I'm getting that rig back is if it's got a fish on it. And that's, I say that several times every day. Now there's exceptions to that rule, obviously. And, if we're going to talk flatheads, we'd have to do like 9 parts to this show just so you could get me to shut up, because we can go the variables are just one right after another. And I think there's some questions there, ain't there?
Yeah. Jello says, are you, when you're looking for certain areas for flatheads. Are you looking for the really old covers, or does new cover provide just as well?
And first of all, hey Jello, that's a great freaking question, man. That's a really, really good question.
Really is.
And number one, we don't know what goes on under the surface. We only think we do. So we can, everything we know, we have based on patterns or things we have done. So no, typically cover that is anchored to that bottom that has been there for years and years, that stuff really seems to be your higher percentage producing stuff for big fish, especially singular pieces of color. I'm not talking about a big log jam. I'm talking about one big rock, one big bridge pillar, one tree, you know, whatever it is, one car, one old barge, whatever it is that's been there by itself for a long time, tends to be big flathead in that area are going to spend some time on that area every day. Now, how far they move, when they move, all that stuff, that's to be determined. But at some point during the day, the biggest fish in that area will be there. Doesn't mean you're going to get him to bite. Doesn't mean, you know, whatever. Doesn't mean you can't catch a small fish there occasionally. That's going to happen. But if you search out, excuse me, I was going to get off on another whole. New cover does not tend to produce. Now it seems I've had new cover by the second or third year it's been there. Seems if it's good, if it's laying the right way in the current and it's, you know, in the right water and the right flow and everything. What's amazing to me is I can go to a river and I can find, because I've done this for so many years, you can find 20 great looking pieces of cover, right? And for whatever reason, about 8 of them will produce flathead regularly, and the other ones produce very little, if nothing. And so what we don't know, and what I would love to know, is why. If I had that answer, then I would say I pretty much got flatheads figured out, and there's nothing else for me to learn. But you just can't. There's no explanation. There's no rhyme or reason. But for whatever reason it is, certain cover that looks just like the next piece of cover, the flow is on the cover, the depth is the same. There's for whatever reason, there's certain pieces of cover that have fish on it all the time, and then there's others that just don't. And it'll look good.
We see that a lot with crappie fishing, especially a lot of times. Especially like I know with Jeremy Colvin with Fin Seeker TV, where he's actually put his man-made stuff down to make his spots for crappie fishing. And a lot of times it don't take them long for them to start producing a little bit here and there, a couple fish here and there. So what do you think is the difference between him setting something like that up for crappie than it is a tree falling and landing in the water? Like why does it take so long for a bigger fish to land on it when we already see the pattern that smaller fish, bait fish, are already tending to go to that spot already?
You know, I don't know. Like the first thing that would naturally come to my mind is that, you know, a big fish comes along this new pieces of cover, hops on in there, gets set up in there, and doesn't get rewarded with an easy meal the first time he's there, the second time he's there, the third time he's there, the fourth time he's there, and just says screw it, and he just eliminates that from his travel path altogether. Don't know if that's correct. It's just like I said, all you can do is make halfway educated guesses at why. You know, what you say kind of contradicts that being true, though, because you guys find fish set up on that stuff fairly quickly. So you would think of a flathead set up on that, he wouldn't have trouble necessarily getting a meal. So I mean, it takes months. I'm not sure. What's that?
It takes months. I mean, it takes a month, couple months before we start seeing a few of the crappie coming up or bait fish coming up on those spots. But
right, so that could very well be
like you're saying. It could be 2, 3, 4 years before we find big fish coming up on that spot. So,
and that could be it.
Justin's fishing fetish wants to know. He says, "I wonder if the age and type of wood makes a difference in whether they set up on it. say the felled tree, in the water. It's it's been around for a while. It's natural. But when it hits the water, it hasn't started to deteriorate. So I'm kind of wondering that myself now that he's mentioned it.
Well, two things for sure that we know 100% for sure, and nobody can contradict it. Nobody can, because they're just crazy if they do. Two things that we know, the two biggest things we know about a flathead and cover. Number one, they love to lay in holes or anything carved out, anything along that lines. And number two, they love to have something above their head. Now, I don't know why necessarily either one of them. I suspect the whole thing was more of a spawn thing because it's easier to protect their young with just one entranceway for predator fish to get to their young. It's much easier to defend one opening. But so that could be more of a spawn thing. But the overhead cover, I assume it's because where their eyes are mounted and they're kind of looking up a little bit, that when they have something touching their head, it makes them feel hidden. And, therefore being an ambush predator, that makes them feel like they're where they need to be, to be successful with that. I mean, I've caught thousands of flatheads in my life, and I bet you the percentage of them that had some kind of a scrape, a mark, or a scar on their head, is a super high percentage. And that's because they're always laying under something, and in the current, they're bumping it every once in a while, and they get scars. And even when it's not spawn season, you'll always find flatheads with, a roughed up head.
Or they're moving back and forth or something.
Yeah,
they could be just moving back and forth, just kind of looking a little bit, moving back in, moving a little bit.
Yeah. Whatever the reasoning is, obviously, again, that's something we don't know 100%. I know that we know for a fact that they like that. So, and I mean, they'll suspend up in a tree, they'll suspend off the bottom, they'll be in cover, but they'll suspend, but they'll lay, they'll do all kinds of funny things. But a lot of flatheads love to, they like to have that feeling of something touching their head, and it's obvious to me, so they really like that. They really like that. So those are two things that I always, am cognizant of when I'm fishing for them. And they, and then you'll have years with flatheads where, they're not on the rocks, they're on the wood, or they're in the rocks and they're not on the wood. And there's no, first thing you think of is bait availability. Okay, well, maybe the shad or the carp or whatever they're feeding on out in these open rocky areas, or there's not a lot of bait there. Maybe it's a year when the crawdads are super thick in the rocks, and so they're pretending, they're spending a lot of time up on the rocks eating smallmouth bass and largemouth bass and crawdads. Or we don't know that. Like I said, we follow trends, and if we're catching a lot of fish on rocks, we stick with rocks until that horse falls over dead, and we just keep on riding it, even when it doesn't want to be ridden no more, and until all of a sudden we can't catch them on rocks and we're catching them on wood. And some years it's a little bit of both. This year, for example, I told you the other question that I get a lot is bait. And the most obvious, biggest battle when it comes to bait is live versus cut. And, cut bait is a great bait for flatheads all year round, much better in the spring and fall, especially in the north, when the water's warming in the spring and cooling in the fall. That's when cut bait up north is really, really, really super effective. However, this year, I'm on a string right now where 30 of my last 32 flatheads have been caught on cut bait, and that's talking water temperature up to 84, 85 degrees. So is it common in the summer to catch flatheads on cut bait? Yeah, you catch them on cut bait. But for them to completely ignore live bait, they have been completely ignoring live bait, is just, I've been fishing for flatheads exclusively for 30 years and been fishing for them totally for more than 40. And I've never seen anything like this summer up here in the north as far as their preference for cut bait. So, yeah, that adds another twist to it, trying to figure that out. Hey, who's stopping? Hey, FOA, what's going on? That's my buddy over there.
Oh, Freddie Beck.
Yep, Mr.
Oh,
Freddie.
Freddie. Yeah.
Need to get
That guy's neater than all get out.
Got a few more in the house. Obviously, Mr. Duggar was saying, so what he's saying is smallmouth bass are good bait. And any bass.
It depends on in the area you live in that's
Yes.
legal enough for you to use it. Yes.
That's true. Here in Georgia,
Well, let's clarify. Well, let's clarify that fish, a flathead doesn't have to follow any rules, first of all. So, yeah, as far as him eating a smallmouth bass, he don't give two craps what Mr. Game Warden says. So, yeah, you want to make sure you check into your rules in your particular state. In a lot of states, if you catch a smallmouth bass legally, pulling line in its legal size, you can use it for bait in that water system, but you need to check on that. That's for sure.
Here's my question. Why is rock bass considered illegal then? It's technically
rock bass are considered illegal? What state are you in?
Kentucky.
In Kentucky? Huh.
Yeah, because they're considered a game fish.
I don't. Well, yeah, it's considered a game fish. Then it's considered. Yeah, I mean,
but they're not.
You know what has happened? What's happened with our DNR and game biologists over the years is they've made a bunch of laws that are damn near unenforceable. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they've up here, you're not supposed to take a bluegill from one lake and then take it over to the Mississippi River and use it for bait. You're not, because of VHS, viral hemorrhagic septicemia, you're not supposed to transport these baits. Okay, you tell me what Superman godlike creature of a DNR agent is going to be able to tell where I caught my bluegill at.
Exactly.
And so what they've done is they put the DNR, the game wardens, in a position where they don't know what to enforce, what not to enforce. They don't know, the amount of polls or something. I mean, it's just some of these laws that are on the books right now are just. And the game wardens believe, I know dang good and well, most of the game wardens are good people, and they don't want to destroy your day of fishing. And they don't even know, they can't even interpret a lot of the laws themselves. So I'm sure they're frustrated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I talk a lot. If it's all right, I have a YouTube channel, Old School Catfishing with CattMatt on YouTube, and I do not have the most exciting videos on the planet. I'll be the first to warn you, because if you have not been able to tell yet, my favorite thing to do when it comes to catfishing is to talk about them, and I'll spend a lot of time in boat pointing out and talking about what I'm doing and stuff, and I'm very, very, very passionate, especially about flatheads. I love it. And again, you can name one, flathead in one variable and talk about that for an hour. And that's going to lead you into about 30 other situations. And you could talk about each one of them. Mm-hmm. And, next thing you know, you two are getting ready to go to work in the morning. And I'm sitting here on my 9th pot of coffee. And, things ain't so pretty then, you know what I mean? Well, just so much.
Before we get too far into the show, KB, you want to go ahead and run our little special video for tonight?
Yeah,
we can get back into the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, I was about to say we're actually over the time we normally do that, so
I told you you just got to tell me to be quiet sometimes.
We'll get back into it because I've got a good question for you as soon as we get back from doing this. So we're gonna take our little minute break here and do our little spotlight video of the week.
It's a little special tonight.
It's a little special for all of us in the fishing community. So sit back and hope you all enjoy it.
Here we go. And well, we have it.
Yeah. We'll meet again. Definitely. Meet again on that bank shore in heaven fishing. So save us a spot, buddy.
David Hughes is asking me, where do I fish in Georgia? I'm actually in central Georgia, so I fish Lake Sinclair and Lake Oconee, mostly Sinclair locally. And I traveled to South Carolina a lot, or did whenever I was fishing a little bit more, and fish over there.
What's up, Buggy? There's Monty in the house.
Yeah, we got a few that come in. I hope some of them are there. Wanted to shout a few people out. Quiet Man Curtis was one of them. Dexter Tang had come in. He's actually started working, so he had to come out. Shark Smith Angling, I think he's new. I don't remember seeing him before.
Yep, that's one of the good buddies there.
Hunting and fishing, hunting and stuff with J&J. Johnny, yep. He's in. Coastal Wardens is in. Catfishing Freak, Mr. Scotty Hill came in. Hope he's still there. Sampy was in the house earlier. I think he's still in with us.
Yep. Irvin, the paid tourist.
Irvin, of course. Justin's Fishing Fetish. Big Wrench Catfishing.
Yep. Any fin possible. And there's Mr. Lynn from Catfish Fever and Outdoors.
That's right.
Stink over stink.
Yes, right. Of course, Mr. Duggar.
Yep.
Is in. Freddie Beck and
Monty, our guard dog extraordinaire.
There you go. I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to get me some. I know a spot I can take them guard dogs and probably wear out the channel cats. Shad Daddy's in the house. Bugman's in the house. Speaking of squirrels, there's Fishing with Squirrels. What's up, buddy? And I think we're pretty much caught up at this
15,
point.
It jumps around about 15 to 18 wonderful people in the house. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, guys. We really appreciate it. Anything you can do to help out the channel, we've got things set up to where you can help support the channel too, definitely. Other ways.
Oh, there's 9222 Crappie Barbecue just rolled in. What's up, buddy?
So my question was, when I was going to come back off that video.
Hold on before you ask the question.
Wait.
Let me ask you a question. Now, let me ask you a question before we do this. Are we going to want to do our word of the week?
We can. She's here.
So, is there anything? Do you remember? Did you write down? I know I didn't. Did you write down those words that was really good words last week?
You think I wrote anything down?
I didn't either. So
Jody's in here. If Jody's still in here, she knows because she's the one that gave it to us.
Yeah. Jody, she was supposed to be actually asking questions, anyways.
But yeah, we can do that. She's upstairs.
Right, so for those of you that comes into the show every week, we do a word of the week, something that's not exactly common, and it helps to grow our vocabulary and help us to understand a little bit more. So anybody that has a word that they would like to share,
and let's keep it decent, because we are talking about an 11-year-old girl, my daughter, coming down and giving us the definition of the word. So
not viral hemorrhagic septicemia.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll skip that then.
Yeah.
Let's see. An idea.
So my question was, I know you talk about flathead fishing in current. So what, for those that don't really have the current but have the flathead, what is your advice to them on how to hunt for them?
Well, I think the basis is still the same. You're still, they still like cover. They still like drop-offs or ledges. They still like the same kinds of bait. They might just be set up different. They might be roaming more, maybe super slow drifting on ledges. Would be something you could do to cover ground and eliminate cover. But, ledges and lakes tend to go hand in hand with everything. And I mean, uneven bottoms. Flathead love uneven bottoms. A bottom that doesn't have any per se big obvious cover laying on it when you go over it, but it's got a bunch of rock that's coming up 2 feet and down a foot and up 3 feet and down a foot, and that's going to be better than your just flat line bottom. They love flatheads. Will travel. They will travel. They don't want to travel. So obviously food, they are not, their regular daily pattern is not going to be somewhere where food is not available. They're just not going to live in an area where food's not available. So then they're really good at what they do. Obviously that's where the cover comes in, and obviously that's where the whole bait comes in. They're ambushing the bait as they come by. So I think your basis, or what you're looking for to set up in an area or to establish the fact that there's flatheads in an area, I think are the same. There she is. Is that our word of the day lady right there?
That is her.
Yep.
Well, why don't I let her have the floor then? She got something to say.
You have anything to say about fish? No.
No.
No, but she does have something to say about hunting.
I really like it.
Yeah, she likes the virtual hunting.
That a girl.
So I went ahead and looked up a good word, and it actually went along with what Matt was saying, as far as looking for cover and going old schools and everything. Astute. And we'll let Sky look that up right quick.
Roll that beautiful bean footage. Yeah. Astute. Did you say astute?
Astute.
Oh, well. I do declare. No, we got to wait for her to find that. Yeah, I don't want to talk over her. Hey, Google.
Sky, if you have to, go to Merriam's dictionary. Merriam there. Yeah, Webster's is what I was trying to say.
Read it. Don't be shy.
She ain't shy.
Come on, little lady.
It has 3.
Just say it's
Okay. Sharp-witted.
No.
Sharp-witted.
You said.
Is the adjective that means keenly intelligent, perceptive, or sharp-witted?
Showing the ability
to accurately assess situations or people and turn this to one's advantage.
Yeah.
No wonder I never heard that word before.
Because that's a word for those that are Harvard grads that use that word, not for us hillbillies.
I've used that.
You are correct.
Country folk, we don't use a soot. That soot means for us means a soot, like black soot. Oh, I got a soot on me.
Yeah. Well, I need to change my shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a soot on me.
Let's see. Matt is astute in being able to read the waters and ascertain how or where certain flatheads are going to be.
I see what you did there. I like that. There you go. I see what you did there.
He did this.
I see what.
Rubbed over
Right.
heads.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right over the head. Good.
Yeah.
Good job.
Now my brain hurts.
we actually had our first ever Mississippi Monarchs Flathead tournament here Saturday night into Sunday. Something I'm trying to get started. I ran a lot of tournaments in the past, but I kind of had decided if I was going to run any in the future, they were going to be flathead tournaments, and because that's what I enjoy fishing for. So we had a good time. I think big fish was 39 pounds, and we had a pretty good number of fish caught and stuff, and so that was fun. But I'm fixing to head out in the morning and try to catch a few flatheads. I have not been doing a lot of daytime fishing this year. I take some medication that the sunlight and the meds do not agree with, so I've been fishing more at night, which I prefer to target flatheads during the day, and that's mainly because I know exactly where they're at in the daytime. But we've got a nice little couple week period here where it's supposed to be real nice and cool and no humidity. I think highs in the 70s, and so some really nice weather to fish during the day. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And these fish, the water temp's going to start dropping back into the low 70s and possibly upper 60s, and that's when they really, that's some of the best fishing you'll do all year up here in the north, when that water's in the mid 60s on its way down.
Same here in the south when it went out. There's been a lot of small, our water temp after the hurricane come through and everything dropped from the 90s down into 68, I believe. I mean, not 68, 86, and over the weekend. And that's when I was up there, and I was getting reports from several people that the blues were really starting to turn on. Since then, the nights have exactly. The nights have actually started to cool down a little bit more now. The days aren't quite as rough, and when it drops down to that magical 78 to 75 degrees, then you can really turn on the blues real quick, like in a hurry, or any of them really, including your flatheads. So I'm actually looking forward to that myself now that I know that I can get back on the water again, and I'm comfortable with doing so. I'm actually looking forward to that myself. Jello was wanting to know, is cover more important than current when you have both?
Yeah. Hey, Jello, make sure you get on my YouTube channel, because you asked some really good questions. That is a really, really good question. And, the answer to it is the current's going to dictate where the fish is on the cover. So the current, if the current's rolling over this chew can is the root ball of a tree, and the tree's running back this way, and the current is straight on, then they together are super important, right? Because I know that flathead's going to lay right behind this root ball, facing out, waiting for something to come in out of the current, and he's going to snap him up, right? So I know if I put a bait here and here on the other side, and then throw off outside of the tree back here and let that bait slowly slide in. That's what I like no rolls for. I'll let that bait just kind of slowly slide into the trunk of the tree. Okay, so now if that current's flowing over the log at an angle, that's going to change where you want your boat and how you position your baits on the tree. So and it's hard to just do sitting here on a camera, but you can imagine. So current, again, will dictate where your fish and how your fish set up on the current, and drop offs. And I always talk about direct drops, not gradual drops. I mean, you know, in a small to medium river, you'll have a lot of times where you're driving down the river and you're in 3 foot, 3 foot, 3 foot, 3 foot, 12 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that drop off is just as good as a bridge pillar. It's just as good as a root ball. It's just as good as anything. It changes the flow of the water, and the water goes out over it and eddies back under it. And I tell people a lot of times, go on YouTube and look up wind tunnel tests, like NASCAR wind tunnel kit tests, and see that smoke they blow back over the cars at 200 mile an hour, and watch how that air flows over the cars and how it wraps back around, because it does the same thing over rocks and wood and coming off of bridge pillars. The water will do the same thing. So you'd be amazed at how a fish might lay in something because you think the current is flowing this way and it's not. You think maybe it's coming off of that bridge pillar and it's just a slow spot, when in essence this current's flowing this way, but then it's eddying back underneath and it's coming back, and then fish might be laying facing the other way, but it doesn't seem natural to you on the surface. So there's a lot of things to consider and a lot of things to try. But when you have current and cover, number one, it's much easier to understand or to accept, to find cover and to know that pretty good likelihood that there's fish on it, right? Because you know which way the current is hitting the cover and all that good stuff. So having current and cover both makes your job quite a bit easier as far as convincing yourself in your mind that there's fish on it. Because once you get to the point where you can convince yourself there's a fish on a piece of cover, you're just naturally going to be more successful. Why? Because you're going to move your baits more. You're going to cast them a few more times to make sure you cover more parts of the log. And you're going to spend a little extra time there that you wouldn't spend on something that you didn't have any confidence in. So, it's going to make you better any way you look at it. So, again, and it just, current is so important and cover is so, I wouldn't say one's more important than the other, but together, it's it's damn near everything, if you have both of them, so the backside of those pillars hold crappie. If they're crappie, means bait, means chance there are cats. I didn't mean to read your question for you.
Oh, it's okay.
But yeah, that's correct. If there's bait there now behind the pillars, as funny as it would sound, I don't typically catch a lot of flatheads behind the pillars. However, I do catch some. And the fact that crappie, probably, I'm just assuming, I'm not a crappie expert, are suspended usually to the middle of the water column or higher, I would imagine. Now, I am no crappie. Yeah. So, probably not something. That's probably something that they're going to go if they have to move. If they move at night, that's probably something where they're going to go after. They'd probably go after something like that more of a nighttime when they're moving situation. Whereas during the day or when they're holding tight to cover, which they do at night sometimes too, not going to be something that you're going to want to looking for to say, hey, I got crappie suspended here and at 3, 4, 5 feet in this 15-foot hole. Well, if your flatheads are holding tight to cover, that probably doesn't matter at all anyway. So they're going to be set up just off of a current flow where a bait has to maybe come in out of that current and take a break, something along them lines. And his break's going to go horribly wrong. So. But yeah, there's food in the area. So, there's, if you've got good depth and you've got good cover and you've got good current, you've got all that stuff in an area, a flathead never has to leave that area, period. It don't matter if it's winter, summer, spring, fall, north or south. If a flathead gets set up in an area like that, he really never has to leave there. They are not worried about going on summer vacation with their family. So they're worried about procreating their species, and they're worried about feeding their bellies. So if they have appropriate spawning cover, and they have a good food source, and they have great cover, they have everything they need in an area, they're probably, you find spots like that, and there's probably flatheads in that area every day, all year round. It's just a matter of you figuring out how they're doing things. And once you do, then you start regularly catching good fish, and then you just go look for other spots like that. And then you just start putting the puzzle together, and they'll teach you things all the time if you're paying attention. I mean, right about the time you think you got them figured out, they'll make you look like a freaking idiot. And then you have to get your back to you cross everything you learned off the chalkboard, and you break out a new piece, and you start all over, because everything you thought you had known, they just showed you were completely wrong. And, but that's what's so great about them. They never get old. You never know everything. You're always finding out something new. And when you hunt for them and you do everything right, and you catch a big, strong flathead, and you have a great fight with them, it makes all the frustration and all the hours you put in to catch it, makes it worth it all. So it's just, flatheads are just, to me, they're just the ultimate fish to fish for, but to each his own.
Yeah. Question for you. If you're fishing, especially because if you're doing old school, if you're fishing a down tree, and how long will you give it fishing it until you move on to the next spot?
That's another good question. I'm going to put 2 baits on the root ball, maybe one in the little dugout cup in front of the root ball. And then I'm going to put one on each side down the trunk a little bit further. And if I've got it covered good, if the current's allowing me to cover it good like that, I'm spending 30 to 40 minutes there, and then I'm gone. If there is an aggressive fish there, you're going to catch him in 30, 40 minutes. If he's not aggressive, I prefer to use big live shad, 13 to 18, 13 to 20 inches plus if I can get them. And the reason for that is because, number one, shad move better on a hook than any other bait there is. I know people will say bluegill and this or that, but nothing moves better than a shad does on a hook. Nothing. And I am convinced that I have caught a lot of big flatheads in my life that did not have no intentions of eating the bait, but that big 1.25 pound shad was over there just beating the crap out of the bottom, doing this nonstop. And I think a lot of them ate out of anger. Now, I know I've ate a lot of cake and donuts over the years when I was not hungry. And that was because they just happened to be sitting in front of me, and I got tired of looking at them. And the only way to get them out of the kitchen was to eat them. And I just think, I've been fortunate to get a lot of big fish a lot of big flatheads to eat when they really didn't want to. I caught a flathead one time with a 17-inch walleye sticking out of its mouth. So wow. They are an incredible predator, and, very lucky to, every once in a while, you get to outsmart them a little bit and fight a big one. And, but yeah, I think big baits a lot of times, on that individual cover like that will, kind of poke a big fish that might not want to eat into eating anyway, because it's just such an easy meal, and it just irritates him. It's just like poking the bear. It just eats at him enough to where he says, screw it, I'm going to eat it anyway. And so, my opinion, but it's worked for me a lot.
BQ he actually wanted this to be a question. Log jams on bridges, good spots to target. I would say
absolutely.
Yes. I would say yes. I have in the Oconee River. Oconee River is not too far from my house, and the bad thing about it is in order to get down there to it, because it keeps trying to wash the roads out, is impossible sometimes. But if you can get down there to that bridge, there's those trussels, and fish to the other, because the river turns right at the trussels. It comes in and turns right at the trussels, and you get a lot of log jams in there, during the flood season, and so it's constantly changing. Now I haven't fished it much, but I have a few friends that do quite often, and they have caught anywhere from 20 on up to 40. I think 45 was the biggest one I've seen so far, right off those trussels because of those log jams. So I would say yes.
Oh yeah, and I would agree with you 100%. I've had a ton of success on bridge pillars with rock or wood on them. One of the best areas I fished on the Rock River for 20 years was a bridge pillar with a couple logs that had stuck to it and were there for years. And yeah, I mean, a bridge pillar is a nice piece of cover by itself. You add wood to it, and you're just making it even more nice, and you're making it to where now all of a sudden you've got other fish that want to stop in there and take a break and hide, and that's exactly what a flathead wants. So, yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you find bridge pillars with wood on them, and now you get them big gigantic wood piles, and you're going to have fish in there that you're just never going to get out of. You're just never going to get a bait to them. Your only chance of catching them spring and fall when they're on the move, if they're on the move, and spawn if they come out of there to go somewhere else to spawn. Just kind of like a big buck. You catch them during the rut. You might catch him, whatever, but transitioning from food. But the good thing about flathead fishing, like I said, is there's a game to be played there. There's a lot to learn, and it is more of a hunt. Only you can't use game cameras. You can't. There's a lot of things you can't do. So it's more about figuring things out, figuring out where you can get bait into a big piece of cover, figuring out all these little things, and that's why it's so rewarding when it all comes together. I just
absolutely.
Yeah.
Jello had a good question.
He's got all kinds of good questions.
I'm gonna actually let Kelly answer that one, because I'll stumble through it if I try.
So you used to catch nice fish in a hole that is now overtaken by carp and don't catch any now. How much do you think the carp problem affects flatheads' natural habits?
I don't think it affects them much outside of the fact that they are kind of a solitary animal. They are not as bad as some people want to make them out, as far as not wanting any other fish close to them and all that kind of stuff. They're not as territorial as what some people want to make them out as, but they, I don't think they like to be in amongst, a lot of fish, especially the bigger, older ones. I'm not sure. Now, obviously, with the Asian carp, you're looking at a lot of free food for them. And if that hole is no longer producing anymore, it could just simply be the fact that there's so much food there. You're just not catching the fish because they don't have to work for their food anymore. They could be eating 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 5 pound silver carp once a day, and that's become their main source. That's what they're eating, and so you're just not seeing the production in the hole anymore, because those fish are there and they're living an easy life.
Now that goes different with gar. That goes different with gar and flathead, because you'll find them in the same spots.
Yeah, and you'll find flatheads in the same spots as a lot of other fish. The only issue is a lot of times the fish that you find in those spots are moving through where a flathead was there already. And again, like I said, they're not as territorial as what people think. Now, however, if they want a piece of cover, if they want a certain area and it comes right down to it, they're going to get it.
Right.
In other words, they're going to they're going to win that fight. They're going to, if there's a certain root ball and that's in their core area and that's where they set up to feed a lot, if they get there and there's another fish there, something's going to give, you know, so, that's just the way they kind of do things. But, yeah, them Asian carp could just have become their, if there's that many in there, could have just became their new food source, and them fish might still be there. You're just not catching them because when they eat, I mean, the food is just right there. They don't, I mean, you know, and that's good, high protein, white meat. And that, you know, it's amazing. Fish know, you know, you'll see fish go on binges where they're eating a certain type of bait, and it's because they know exactly what their body needs at certain times of the year to survive. They know what they need. They know what high calorie fish they need when their metabolism is running at max, when in the water temperature is 90 degrees, and they know what they need going into the winter time. And they know what, you know, they might not be quote unquote smart, but their bodies know, their natural instincts tell them what they need to eat. And you'll see, you know, those Asian carp, I can't imagine that they're lacking absolutely anything that a flathead needs. So, again, fortunately, we don't have a ton of them up here in the areas I'm fishing. We do have some, but I could see how areas that never had them, that have a ton of them now, I could see how the flathead bite could kind of go away. It's great for the flatheads, not great for your fishing.
Right.
But, you know, they're definitely prospering. The carp are doing nothing but helping them because it's just such an easy, abundant food source, but not good for your fishing per se.
Of course, with that being said, about, you know, they know what their bodies need. You know, an introduction of a new fish, like the Asian carp, you know, once they get a taste for it, it's like us. We get a taste for certain dishes at a restaurant. Every time we go to that restaurant, that's what we're going to order. We're going to, you know, we're just going to eat
creature habits.
Yeah. However, after a certain amount of time of eating the same exact thing every time, you think to yourself, well, I'm going to switch this up today. You know, maybe I'll eat, you know, maybe they look at it thinking, maybe I'll go back and eat, you know, a couple of bass if they come by, or a couple of bluegill or something of that nature. You know, so I would say that right at the beginning, when the Asian carp rather come into those areas like they started doing, you know, the fishing kind of took a back seat for a while. And everybody's, oh, we got to get these out. And then they found out, oh, we can't do that because they grow or produce in such quantities that there's no way of getting them out. Well, after, I don't know, a year, I think it was a year or so, fishing started back being good again. And I believe it's because of what I just said. You know, it's a good protein source that, you know, to them it may taste good and everything, but they're going to get tired of that after a while. And so now you have a better chance of getting out there with other fish besides Asian carp in order to catch them.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Entirely possible.
And I'm real proud of myself. I'm real proud of myself because I actually didn't stumble through all that I just said with that just then.
Well, yeah, there you go. And I always say I try not to speak in absolutes when I'm talking about fishing. In other words, I try not to say, well, the Asian carp are there, you are not going to catch your fish anymore because they're eating the Asian carp, because that's just wrong. You know damn good and well they're eating something else down there. Or, you know, you're going to catch these fish in this month when the water temperatures are this, because that's just, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on underneath the water surface we still don't know anything about.
Oh yeah, it's like you're talking about, like they're sitting on the back side of a root ball. If an Asian carp goes on around one side and you've got a shad goes around the other side, we really don't know which one they're going to pick.
Probably the one that just happens to be in front of them.
Yep.
You know, I mean, if they're set up there with the purpose of feeding, I don't think it matters which one comes around the corner, but it matters what one's right in front of his face. Yep. So,
and that's how we fish. It's putting the bait right in front of them.
Right in
front of them.
That's the goal.
Put that bait right in front of them.
Gotta have goals. My wife says that. Yeah. And the reason why I said the big reason why I like a big bait is simply because I think sometimes that will entice a fish that doesn't really want to eat into eating sometimes. That, that big fish banging and moving right there in his face, I think sometimes it just becomes too much. But, so the bigger they are, the more attention they're drawn, so that's why I like that. But,
BQ said, I even threw a good joke in there and he stayed serious. And what he was talking about was this right here. I tied on supposed to have been trail cam. And it got waterlogged, game cam, and it got waterlogged, and the pictures were a little bit fuzzy.
I have sat in boats and had conversations with people about that. Wouldn't that be neat? If you could set up a game camera down there on a root ball, and it would be neat to see. I mean, I wouldn't want to be like guys are now, where they can have their deer pattern by opening day of season, and they can almost damn near know what buck is moving where, and they've already seen all the deer, so nothing's a surprise when you see it anymore. And but they've got all the work's done. All they got to do is climb up the tree opening day and make a good shot. That's all they got to do. I don't think I would want to get it that way, but it would be neat if you could see that. That would be really cool if Aquaview came out with a trail camera or a root ball cam, whatever you want to call it, that you could put down there and see the fish swimming around a little bit. I think it would be neat. Yeah, that'd be.
Well, I'll point this out because he's a good friend of mine. Fishing Magician 2.0, Mr. Mark, has put cameras on his lines when he throws it out for his catfish. And he actually will able to see what they look like when they're down there swimming around your bait. And it is very, very interesting.
I think I have seen some of his stuff.
Yeah. He's got some interesting photo. He's even strapped one to the top of a fish's head and let it swim.
I'm almost sure I did see that. Yeah, that's really cool. So, I'm pretty sure I did.
Jello did say, well, I'm going to hook me a big carp up and throw it down there, find out. So thanks for your knowledge. So he's gonna try with a big old carp and see what he can get you.
There's my buddy Chris, late to the party.
Tell him to stick a rattle on there too. Rattles, that'll make his particular bait stand out a little bit more than the rest of them. That noise and vibration makes a big deal when it comes to flathead fishing. Hell, I still use a clonk. A clonk is something that's used mostly in Europe for Wells catfish, but I've been using a clonk for 20, 25 years. I still have one in my boat I can reach all the time. I still use it.
Okay, so you're gonna have to enlighten me on a clonk.
A clonk is it almost looks it's got a handle on it. It's straight, and then it's got a rounded tip on the edge, and you take it and pull it through the water, and it makes a kind of a clonk sound, and you wish it through the water. And what it was made, they still use. They said they're very big deal in Europe. They kind of mimic the sound of bait busting the surface. Oh. And so I still use this. I just had one out there. I just had mine out the other night. So I still use it. I've caught a lot of fish using it. Doesn't necessarily mean that those fish can't. I caught them fish because I got the clonk out and they thought fish were active and they got active. Hard to prove if that's why you catch fish when you use it. All I know is typically when I have enough coincidences, I stop thinking that they're coincidences. So, a clonk is another tool that's.
So it's spelled
CLONK.
Yeah, and I pulled it up on Google, and guess who the first information comes from? Mr. Muddy River himself, Mr. Chris Flores.
Yeah, it states that clonking is movement with what does it say? Move with or make sound. Like horses clonking through the streets.
Yeah, it's kind of like they talk about using a paddle to beat the water.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So with that being said, in South Carolina, and I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
In South Carolina, when you're out fishing for, well, at least ways on Lake Wiley, when you're out fishing for bait, they have true white perch, and if you look at your graph, what you notice is that it looks like spaghetti. That's when you know you're on them. So you typically just throw your, just drop shot, a little, I forget this called, I forget the name of the wig. You just drop shot down into them, and you kind of slowly retrieve up. If you do not get anything after a minute or two of doing that, then you clonk on the side of your boat, and it creates a feeding frenzy for them to go after your bait. So
Right.
I understand the clonk stick now.
Well,
now everybody in the
if you
business
think about it,
but it's the vibration.
if you think about it, catfishing, people have known for years when the water's rising and it gets muddy, the fishing gets real good, and even when the water's fairly clear, you get down 40, 50, 60 feet, it gets pretty dark down there. We know catfish have good vision, but we also know that they're the most sensory perceptive fish swimming around in fresh water, and they are more adept at using their touch, scent, all that stuff than they are their eyesight. Their eyesight's probably the worst thing they have going for them, and it's pretty damn good. So, if you can appeal to that sense, that vibration, that sound, you're really increasing your odds, because, I don't think most fish go out they do sight fish. I'm sure they do, but I'm telling you, I think they always are incorporating their sense of smell, and that lateral line is there for a reason. I mean, when your whole body can detect vibration and sound and smell and touch and taste, they're incorporating that when they're feeding. Regardless, the sight's just a bonus. If they get close enough to something and happen to see it, they're going to pounce on it, but they're using all them other senses to find the bait. And so if you can appeal to those senses, I think you're just helping yourself, 1,000%. I think it's just a no-brainer, but
Kelly,
that's just me.
We have gone over our time frame for tonight, although it's been very enlightening conversation with Cat. But my wife is over here chewing on ribs and making me hungry.
Yeah, she's probably tired of listening to me talk. Hey, well, we just do her again sometime, and we'll talk more.
Yep. Oh, definitely.
Definitely. We'll let you pick the subject, and that's what we'll push out to everybody. We'll say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, and then we'll do like a little mini series of it.
Sure, we could do that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So, for those of you, well, what have you got, Kelly, coming up? I know you said you could go good fishing for a little bit.
No fishing for me for a little bit, at least.
Yeah.
No. A lot of you all probably have heard, but I'm still not completely out of the weather.
Yeah.
I'm still lightheaded and stuff like that. So it ain't going to be no good idea for me to walk a creek or try to get the boat out to go fishing, because I fish by myself. So definitely don't need to have that accident.
I don't fish by myself. And so
and you definitely don't need to be going out by yourself.
Not by myself.
Nope.
But I have Chris. Hopefully I didn't scare him too bad with my boat skills whenever we were out the other day. A lot of y'all, I did go. A lot of you guys have me on Facebook and know that I did go fishing this past Sunday for the first time since the stroke, and really for the first time in almost a year of not being able to go out there because of taking care of my mom. But those, I'm starting to get well enough to be back on the road, on the boat, and with somebody, of course. And Chris from Hubcap Points has gone out with me, and we'll probably be on there again. Yep, that was it right there. Little first time back since the Trout, and first thing I pulled into the boat was a 12-pound blue cap. And I actually saw him before he took the bait. It was pretty cool.
I'm still waiting on you to try to break mine.
Oh, it is coming. Now that I can get back out there and start targeting again, yeah, it's on, baby. But anyways, so I will be back on the water. Hopefully,
you're gonna try to break that one.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm hoping to do that by November at least.
I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it.
I could do it on Sinclair, but I have to have some time on the water for that one. But yeah, Chris said anytime. So obviously I didn't scare him too bad with my boat skills. Matt, it's been like I said, it actually has been a very enlightening conversation tonight. Obviously you are extremely knowledgeable, especially when it comes to flathead. I've only been targeting flatheads for a short time now, and so a lot of what you were discussing with like the root ball and such as that gives me something a little more knowledge now out there. So I appreciate that. Like Kelly said, we'll get with you again. We'll set us up a date. You pick the subject and we'll go with it. I think our viewers will appreciate that. So,
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys having me, and y'all take care of yourself. And I know I'll probably be seeing you at the Catfish Conference here in February, maybe. And but I'll definitely look forward to coming back on. Anytime you need a long-winded speaker, just give me a call, and I'll hop on here and talk with you all again. But I appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate you.
All
right, pal. You guys take care.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. All right, Kill. I'm gonna go ahead and take us on out. Unless you have anything else you need to add.
Nope, guys. Just be careful out there, and just be safe.
Yeah, definitely
be safe and wet a line.
That's right. Keep that wind to your backs and those lines in the waters. With that being said, we'll see y'all next week.